Imagine a New Zealand where you could live in Hamilton, work in Auckland, and then meet up with friends for dinner in Tauranga, all without ever getting stuck in a traffic jam. Sounds pretty incredible, right? Well, believe it or not, there's a detailed blueprint that could actually make that happen. Let's dive in. So, here's the big idea. New Zealand's Golden Triangle, the country's economic engine, all seamlessly connected by a modern rail solution. And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi dream. It's a real, tangible plan based on a proven model that could completely change how we move, live, and work. Okay, but before we get too carried away with this awesome vision, we kind of have to talk about the problem we're facing right now. And really, the heart of the issue in New Zealand is our habit of using short-term fixes for incredibly long-term problems. We're basically stuck in an infrastructure gridlock. And that short-term thinking, it's given us something urban planners call carpet development. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. This sprawling, higgledy-piggledy mess of housing that just spreads out with no real plan. It puts a massive strain on our infrastructure and creates what's known as a net diseconomy, which, is just a fancy way of saying that the more it sprawls, the more expensive and inefficient it gets for everybody. At the end of the day, it's costing all of us. So what's the fix? Well, that brings us to our first huge and honestly pretty surprising takeaway. A proven model from Japan that acts like a self-funding machine. It completely flips the script on how we pay for public transport. And this is where things get really interesting. See, on the left, you've got the typical Western model. It's unstable, always teetering, always needing more tax money just to stay afloat. But then, you look at the Japanese model on the right. It's not about subsidies at all. It's a totally balanced, integrated ecosystem that runs on pure commercial synergy. It all boils down to this one core idea. It's about profits beyond the fare box. The money you make from tickets, that's just the beginning. It's just one piece of a much larger and way more profitable puzzle. Okay, check this out, because it shows you exactly how this engine works. It's genius, really. The rail operator doesn't just run trains. They build high-density housing and offices right there, creating this built-in audience of commuters. Then what do those commuters do? They become shoppers at the station stores. And all that non-fare revenue, the money from retail and property, gets poured right back into the rail network. It's this perfect self-sustaining loop. But get this financial model does way more than just fund trains. In a really clever way, it also offers a direct solution to our housing crisis. The answer is to swap out that messy carpet development for something called articulated density. Basically, we stop building out everywhere and start building up. But, and this is the key, only where it makes the most sense, right at the transit hubs. That's where density belongs. And this simple change fixes a massive flaw in our current system, something economists call the rentier trap. You've seen this happen, right? The public pays for, say, a new train station, and then suddenly all the private landowners nearby jack up their rents and capture all that financial upside. Well, in this integrated model, the operator is the developer. They have a massive incentive to keep rents competitive because they need to guarantee a steady stream of riders every single day. It actually helps stabilize the whole housing market. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds huge. Ambitious, right? Well, here's the third and maybe the most surprising takeaway of all. This is a super pragmatic and highly achievable plan. We're not talking about futuristic bullet train technology here. And the reason it's so achievable comes down to what you could call the narrow gauge advantage. There's this common myth that for any kind of high-speed rail, we'd have to rip everything up and build brand new tracks. Not true. The reality is, New Zealand's existing rail network uses the exact same 1,067-millimeter gauge as Japan's standard intercity trains. We don't have to start from scratch. We can just upgrade what we've already got. And the plan isn't to do it all at once. It's a smart, phased rollout. Stage 1 is just about getting services up and running on the tracks we have now. Then, in Stage 2, you bring in some upgrades, more track, electrification, to boost the speeds. And finally, Stage 3 is where you unleash the system's full potential with those 160-kilometer-per-hour tilt trains. So, the big question, what's the price tag for this whole transformative project? Around $3.7 billion. Now, I know, that sounds like a huge number, but let's actually put that into perspective. That's about the same cost as just 2.5 major highway projects. And here's the real kicker. You're not just buying a road that lasts maybe 50 years. You're investing in a 100-year asset that will be serving the country for generations to come. All right, so we've covered the what and the why. Let's wrap up with the how, the actual practical path to making this thing a reality. And this next part might be the most critical piece of the puzzle, especially for the decision makers. This doesn't have to be funded entirely by the taxpayer. The idea is to set up a public-private partnership with Japanese rail experts on a long-term deal. This way, New Zealand gets to tap into their world-class expertise and their capital while keeping most of the financial risk off the public's books. And you know what's really cool? The customers for this kind of system, they're already here. Think about it. With Auckland's rapidly growing Asian demographic and a whole generation that values a car-free lifestyle, there's this massive, untapped demand for a super convenient transit system just like this. The market is literally ready and waiting. So, when you put it all together, these strategic dividends are just immense. You get a financial model that pays for itself, you get a high-speed connection that crushes congestion, you get more housing with stable rents, and you get a 100-year asset that's going to boost the whole country's productivity for generations. Which all leaves us with one final, and I think pretty crucial, question. We have a proven, self-funding model that tackles our biggest challenges in infrastructure, housing, and growth, all for the price of a couple of highways. So the question isn't really, can we afford to build this? The real question we have to ask ourselves is, can we afford not to?